In this video, I'm going to show you the production methods to making beats for J. Cole's newest album, The Fall Off. As always, we're going to be making 3 beats using one method, taking inspiration from some of the best tracks on the album, which has production from the likes of T-, Boy Wonder, The Alchemist, and of course J. Cole himself. So let's dive straight into it. So for the first track, we're taking inspiration from 2-6, which is predominantly produced by T-. So we're going to go for that typical bounce that you can get from his beats. We're working at 82 BPM, and the idea behind this track is we want it to be cool. We want it to be bouncy, a lot of movement and energy, and also of course lots of space for J. Cole to rap on. So we'll start off with Analog Lab, and I just want to find like a synth sound, like a string or synth or key sound that we can do our main chord progression in. We'll start off with this sound just so we can get the chord progression down, and then we'll do a bunch of layering. Now the chord progression that we're going to use for this is one of my go-to chord progressions when I'm trying to make this sort of cool, darker type of trap beat. So that's the easy way to play this chord progression. Now, if we were to play the chords correctly, then you'll notice that it's a lot cleaner and it removes a lot of the tension. So instead of doing that, we want to basically keep this B note held down the entire time, and that just makes it easier to play, but because the notes are closer together and there's less movement, it creates more tension. As simple as that. So like I said, just having the notes played with that root note staying there the whole time just makes it a lot easier and creates that tension. So let's just quantize it, and yeah, we're going to layer it basically with the idea of creating a mesh of sounds, so it's going to sound a lot more interesting, and then we can process different layers, and also gives us a lot of options when it comes to the arrangement and dropping out different sounds at different times. So we'll just drag in another Analog Lab. You can use anything for this, any synthesizers will work. Yeah, that's perfect. Having a string pad just makes it sound a lot more epic, I think. And now we'll just pan one to the left, one to the right, turn them down. Now let's just group this together. We'll call this melody. Let's do one more MIDI layer where we'll just drag this down once more. And this time let's just find something a bit in the sort of mid-lower range. In fact, a piano might be a good shout just to add some more naturalness to the overall melody. And I also want to add in some bass notes here, add a bit more depth. So we'll follow the actual progression for this. It doesn't need to be just that one note. So we've got the basic chord progression. What I like to do now is add in a respace, and this is something that would come in maybe in like the hook or in different sections, similar to 2-6, and we just follow that root note chord progression. So let's just find a good respace for this. Again, Analog Lab will do the trick. Okay, so now that we've got the main progression done, we want to start getting some more interesting melodic elements added in. Now we could use MIDI again, but honestly, I like to use stems from samples. I find it the best way just to get some instant cool stuff going on. So we know that the key signature we're in is B minor. So in my samples, I'm just going to search B min. And usually you'll find in your sample kits, a lot of the producers will split them out into the stems. So you can take like some interesting elements from it only. You know what? I think let's move on to the drums now, because the progression's getting a little bit stale and tired. Once we add the energy of the drums, it might be easier to dictate where to go. For the drum sounds, I'm using my own drum kit. I recently dropped the Catalyst kit, which was to celebrate hitting 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you want to get it, it's just $5 until March the 16th. Link is down below. It's got everything you need to make some fire beats, a bunch of loops with stems, guitar loops, a full drum kit, drum loops, MIDI chord progressions, everything you could possibly need. So make sure you check that out. So let's just add in some drum sounds and build a really bouncy beat. My method for this is just trial and error basically. We're going to keep it fairly repetitive in terms of the pattern, just so it's easy to, nod your head to. For the hi-hats, let's just do a MIDI layer because it'll be a lot easier to manipulate it how we want. And we definitely need an open hat as well. I find that open hats are really the missing ingredient when you're trying to do like high energy trap beats. So now what we're going to do is mute this synth bass so we can just work out the 808. I think that the 808 is going to be really important for this because, again, like 2/6, you want it to be bouncy and full of energy and not just be like a simple follow the chord progression sort of thing. So we'll start off using my favorite 808, again from the Catalyst kit. And I think we'll play it in an octave higher just so we can hear the tone and try to record something in that's got a lot of notes but also fits with the overall kick pattern too. And then drop it down. So it's not bad, but there will need to be a few notes that are removed because it can get a bit too much otherwise. And also you need to think about how low it's going. So can you still hear the actual tone of the note when it goes down to the G? It's a little bit up for debate. So the way that we can fix that obviously is jumping this up an octave, or if we want to, we could move the key of the entire track up a couple of semitones. That's an option that I'm contemplating because it will also do some interesting stuff to the melody. Let's give that a try and just bounce out the entire melody. Thank God that Ableton now has the bounce group in place. So we just right click the entire group. And actually, before I forget, what we should do is just remove this one time. So we've got a section without that counter melody thing. Okay, so we now see that the melody is audio, so we can manipulate it. And now, yeah, let's shift up this entire melody. Let's go 2 semitones, and then we do the same with the 808. So now to work on the 808, we need to just think of a few things. First, let's sidechain it to the kick. So sidechain, we'll choose the kick. And in fact, maybe keeping the 808 like that for some sections will work. And then the other sections, we can simplify it a bit more so it's a bit more chilled out and calm. So we'll just put this one green. And when there's lots of multiple hits, let's just mellow that out. So that works a lot better. Now we've got variations, which makes it, again, easier for the arrangement, like I've mentioned. And we've got the main progression, which is the thing that sets the entire vibe. So we're going to want to do some work to that for sure, in terms of adding some more interesting melodic layers. But first, what we want to do is sort of a verse section with this melody. So what we're going to do is copy this over and take the progression out of it. So it becomes essentially just like a repeated, like one note melody. So what I mean by that is, first of all, the 808, we don't want the progression. Let's just put it all to the same note. Because we've got this in audio, we just have to sort of chop it. Just going to copy it over. Again, color change so we understand what's going on. Maybe add a variation at the end, like every 4th one or something. So if we play that all together. So So then when it goes back into this section, this works perfectly more for like a hook or a bridge, and that's where the respace can come into it. So we can literally mute this 808, bring back the respace, and we get this. And if you're not liking that high pitched like top line melody part, then we don't need to use it. I can appreciate that it gets a little bit grating on the ears. So that's why it was good to make sure we had a section without that. So let's just go in and add a MIDI layer again so that we can just do something like a bell or something like that, just to add some accents and whatnot. I like that. Because this sound just has a bit more character to it. It's just a bit more interesting to work with. Yeah, just something like that. It's literally just playing the same notes as the chords, but sort of randomly. And then again, just hoping that if we do some processing with it, it will just make it the right sort of sound. So in terms of the processing, let's try something like Lunacy Audio Beam, which is again just a multi-effects processor. I like using these sort of plugins to just mess with the sound and take it away from being organic to, you know, processed and interesting. It's got a lot of similarities to Portal. So I like that it can't be playing too much because it can get a little bit, you know, in your face. Then that melody bounce that we did, the bit with that annoying higher melody, we'll take that out because, yeah, it's pretty bad. And now we know we've got this as a sort of counter melody. So I think that's really all the layers we need. We can add one for effects. So this is just going to be any impacts, risers, weird stuff like that. The arrangement is essentially just switching between different things. So knowing that we have got the main section with the progression. See what I mean? So it's just building things up, basically having a hook as an intro, and then when it drops, it will go into the verse section, which is just this chopped up part, and then the 808 will come in, the respace will drop out. Yeah, you're just going to sort of go between those sections, and then you can also do some cool little arrangement tips. Check out my previous video, link is up here, to see what I do for arrangement, how I drop things out, you know, what little bits of effects and automation I would do. So yeah, then you just finish arranging it out, and really easy, really simple. You've got a high energy beat with plenty of space for a rapper to do their thing. Okay, for the next beat, we're going to be working at 114 BPM. This one I'm basing more on my sort of favorite J. Cole tracks like Huntin' Wabbits, Clouds, that tempo. So this is like the sort of beat where it's really mellow, down tempo, but really easy for J. Cole to effortlessly flow over. So starting off with this bass sample that I've got from a Cymatics pack. It's just the stem of a bass, but it was the sort of progression that I felt would be right for this. So yeah, really simple, really mellow, like I said. Let's just get everything on the grid, just because I want this to be pretty much straight, like not swinging too much. So we're just gonna literally like this. So it's subtle changes, but I think it makes a difference, especially once I get the drums going and I want everything to be on grid. So now that we've got the bass, I want to go straight in with the Rhodes. Rhodes is perfect for these sort of beats where you want it to be smooth, mellow, vibey, you know? So just some simple chords just to really get the vibe going. The easiest 2-chord progression ever for these sort of beats, one of my favorites. We're just doing D minor, then down to G minor. Pretty simple, right? So let's record that in, and maybe just to jazz it up, we can do a little bit of a trill. Again, really simple, but now we've got the idea of the emotional core of the track and what the beat really is going to be about. So now we can do the same thing with the piano. I just like to have this as another sound that can be layered with it, and then also do something to just add a bit of variation for a B section. It's a nice little melody, I think. Next up, I want to add a bit of texture to this, just to add a bit more character and dirt to it. EQ out pretty much everything. Keeping it moving, because the melody foundation is done and it's so vibey, it's really easy to just add layers to this one. You can't go wrong with just a nice held down string note. It just always works really well for like a hook or a breakdown or something like that. Next up, we'll put in some accents. Again, I'm just searching like the key signature through my samples and going through stems and finding something that will just fit in. That's the melody done. Now we can move on to the drums, and the drums are really easy for these beats, I find. I'm going to start off with just a rim shot, so we'll just put that in place. Then we can just record in a quick hat. This is going to be pretty fast. I mentioned before, I don't really want any groove or swing on this. I just want everything to be like on the grid. Next, we'll throw in a perk loop just to add a bit more variation to the drums. See, I like this one, but obviously it's got swing to it and it's a little bit all over the shop. So what I'm going to do is, again, just warp marker all the hits and get it on grid so it matches the hats that we've quantized. Yeah, see, it sounds much better like that. And then there's another easy trick we can do, which is we'll just click here, go forward. Let's bring that down, maybe like halfway. We just need to do a kick, and the kick is all about trial and error. So we're just going to go through and make sure that it fits with the melody, with the bass line, with the groove of the drums. Again, has that pocket for J. Cole to rap in. So now we've got all the layers, and this one came about really easily, mainly because we started off with that stem, which just made it really easy because it had a progression already there, and you just have to build everything around it, and everything comes together really easily. So let's arrange this one out now and see how it sounds. Okay, now for the final beat, I'm going to show you one that I've already made. So this one's at 86 BPM. It's boom bap. It's a lot more like typical J. Cole vibes that I think a lot of people would associate with him. Again, really mellow and down tempo, soul searching, storytelling type of beat. The idea behind this one was using a progression that I had figured out on a pad sound, and it's really sparse. Again, the pockets and the space is what I'm thinking of the most with these beats. And then having some really nice strummed guitar chords, which I did on my Tanglewood acoustic to go with it. So just adding that live instrumentation makes a big difference. I always love the J. Cole beats with live instruments, and any beats to be honest, just really gives it that soulful feel. And then the best part is this guitar melody, which I just recorded twice just to really thicken it up and make sure it sounded right, and processing the hell out of it with a ton of reverb. By the way, if you like this melody, this is one of the melodies that are in my Catalyst kit, split out by the stems, so you can use the entire loop, you can use the individual elements of it. I mentioned the Catalyst kit before, but I really think you should check it out for $5. I mean, the amount of stuff you get in there, sounds that I use in all my beats, check it out. And then for the drums, like really typical boom bap drums, just easy to nod your head to. Really simple, right? So when you put it all together, you get something nice and smooth, really easy to listen to with lots of space, again, for an artist. So thanks for watching, I hope the video helps. Make sure you check out the Catalyst kit, link down below, $5 until March the 16th. And let me know in the comments what you think of the J. Cole album. What's your favourite track on there? Mine's the one produced by The Alchemist. And if you want to see a video on how to produce like The Alchemist, check out this video right here.